Tap and what is turning out to be a very historic season of the UIM Formula 1 H2O World Championship for powerboating as we greet you from the shores of spectacular Lake Toba in northern Sumatra for the inaugural Kapiko Grand Prix of Indonesia. Hi everybody, I'm your host Stephen Michael along with my partner ex-world champion Jonathan Jones of Wales, and we welcome you to a very important day as it's time to restart the clock for the BRM, qualifying in the battle for pole position and set the lineup for today's two Grand Prix races. Now, this is the first time in the 39-year history of the sport that we have ventured to the Southeast Asia majestic country of Indonesia, and more spectacularly, this massive island of Sumatra, which is well known as one of the leading tourist destinations in all of Indonesia. Jonathan, you've had a chance to be here for a couple of days. What's your thoughts coming here for the first time?
Well, there's no question that Indonesia is one beautiful country, and the local people, they've made us so welcome here. So great to be here in Indonesia in what is a superb venue for powerboat racing.
Should be a lot of fun. Let's see how it pans out this morning. Well, let's talk about the race circuit on Lake Toba. It's one of the longest, most technical that we've seen in years, Jonathan. In all your years of studying the circuits, how do you see the strategy being played out this day today?
Yeah, Steve, this is a tough one. You can see coming down past the start-finish line there into turn number 1 and turn number 2. We've seen boats going over there yesterday. Very difficult waves coming in from the other side of the lake. Then from 2 into number 3. Number 3 is a right-hander. These boats do not like turning right for some reason. You go around number 3, short shoot into 4 and 5, and then down towards the sea, towards the land side, the landlocked side, which is into 7 and 8. Then you come around from 7 and 8 into number 9. You're trying to float the boat on top of the water there, making sure that it doesn't settle too hard, because you've got a long straight as you power down again to the start-finish line.
A lot of corners, a lot of technicalities on this race circuit. It's probably the toughest course that we've seen since Sharjah back in 2019. Now, last year's championship was one of early domination by American Sean Torrente, with a streak of 4 straight podium finishes, followed by, for him, a crazy weekend in December as he was trying to hold off the charge of Jonas Anderson, who was coming on strong. Jonas is right up front. He took the lead early in the race, but then on a restart, all of a sudden, there was a major accident. Sean Torrente goes over, and he blows the boat over. And then his teammate, who was right behind him, couldn't see him in the spray, ran right over the top of him and just barely missed the cockpit. Both Team Abu Dhabi boats were destroyed, and hopes and dreams for Sean Torrente of winning another world champion seemed to have gone by the wayside. All Jonas Anderson had to do was finish the race with just 10 laps remaining. All of a sudden for him, hard luck hit him hard. His engine went south, and for the first time all year, he failed to finish. You can see his wife just unbelievably couldn't believe that it was happening, and the disappointment in that Team Sweden crew. So Jonas Anderson gets congratulatory hugs and saying having a great season. Meanwhile, a new world champion, Sean Torrente, for the first time in 4 years.
I am 1 meter from being in the hospital because that crash was wicked, and 30 minutes later I'm world champion. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster day. I said this morning, these are the days I live for. I'm really blessed and thankful for my team. 3 world championships in 4 years. That's pretty good, and I'll take it.
Tell you what, he was really shaken up on that, but very grateful that Lady Luck came his way. Now, Jonas Anderson, as we just mentioned, we saw what happened to him as the disappointment came full circle for him. He thought he would win the race and win the championship. He only needed to finish in 7th place. It didn't happen. Let's hear from the driver who is chasing his 2nd world championship this weekend.
Sure, it was a disappointment in Sharjah when we broke down, but we know that it can happen, and it happened in the worst time. So, but for this season, we need to be better prepared and try to get points in all the races. I feel very strong for the qualifying. The setup is good of the boat, and in the last race in Sharjah, we qualifying 1 and 2, so hopefully we can do it here.
Very positive thinker, does most of the work himself. Now, French driver Peter Moran has taken the role as lead driver of the CTIC China team, and with his father-in-law retiring after 3 world championships. But he had problems yesterday in practice, and he talks about what went wrong.
I don't know yet. I think I take a bad waves and going a rolling bar, but it's a very difficult course. On the turn, it's a very tricky and moving with the big wave, so it's quite difficult, as you can see. Sorry.
Well, the good news for him is the boat's back A-OK. They cleaned it out, they dried it out, and put on a new engine. He's ready to go today. Now this field of drivers, 20 different drivers, 12 different countries from 4 different continents are ready to kick off this 2023 campaign. Here's the entry list. Number 1, the World American, Sean Torrente out of Florida. And then Eric Stark, who's back. Glad to have him back for the first time in 4 years. Then Peter Moran, and then Brett Dillard, who is one of 4 rookies in the race, the American from South Carolina. Then Ben Gell from the UK, another rookie in boat number 9. Sami Selio looking for his 3rd World Championship. Jonas Andersson there in that 14 boat. And his young teammate Kali Vipo from Finland. Marit Stromoy was quick yesterday. She was 3rd quickest. And as you look farther down, the Gilman Racing team have a pair of Finns who are going to hope that they can last in qualifying today with engine problems early on. And Bartek Marzwak had 2 podiums in a row, and Sharjah did really well. And then there's Brock Cohen, the other rookie. He is from Australia. Great to have another driver from down under getting a chance to race. So that's your entry list today. We're just seconds away. Now today the format's going to be a little bit different. What we plan on doing with this day today is we're going to have qualifying in the morning. Yesterday we got blown out. It just didn't get done to get qualifying in with the afternoon wind. So what we're going to do today is we're here early morning. It's only 8 o'clock local time, and we're going to get the drivers out there for just one session. Now usually we have 3 different Q1, Q2, Q3s, but today it's going to be all boats on the water for 45 minutes, and that will determine the starting lineup with the first of 2 races coming your way at about 12 noon local time. So it's going to be a jam-packed afternoon and a big, busy day here, Jonathan. We can't wait to get started. I'm excited. How about you? What a great way to start the season.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, as we discussed earlier on, Steve, it's a fantastic circuit. Very, very demanding. As you said, Peter was caught out with the rollers yesterday. Fortunately, first thing this morning, because we're out here so early, the conditions are absolutely perfect for qualifying. We're going to go with a full 45-minute session, so it's going to be pedal to the metal right the way down to the end of the session, because nobody's going to know who's going to get that pole position until right towards the end. Tell you what, it's going to be important, Steve. The conditions, although they're flat at the moment, it's going to be really important for these drivers to communicate with their crew chiefs, that they're in communication with them on the radio, to make sure that they can get a nice clean lap, a clear lap. The conditions are perfect, and they need that feedback, the drivers do, from the crew chiefs, to be able to really get down, hammer the boat, get as much speed and as much acceleration out of it to get that fast lap.
It'll be interesting to see what Jonas Andersson, as we take a look at him, ready to go out. Now, he broke his boat yesterday, Jonathan, and they spent until midnight working on the boat. They came back at 5 in the morning, so they're dragging a bit, but they know that's the only way they can get themselves out and run the boat. So they had to sacrifice the off day. Thank God for them. They were able to get the boat ready, and they got an extra day to get prepared. But they're trying to catch up, and you can see he's the last to come off the dock. So 19 boats out on the water, and Jonas Andersson hasn't made his appearance yet. But again, it's a 45-minute session, so you know you can sit there and work strategy before you get out on the water.
Yeah, I've got to say though that the first probably 3 or 4 minutes, once this water starts to settle down, is going to be the best part of the session. This is the time when they can really push these boats to the limit out here on the circuit. But going back to Jonas Andersson, you were talking about him a little bit earlier there, Steve. I mean, the guy is really dialed in, no question about it. The boat was set up perfectly yesterday. I was watching him there out on the water. Didn't realize that he had that problem with the boat overnight. But he knows what he needs to do to get pole position. He's done it so many times over the last 12 months, and he's going to be the benchmark out here today, no question about it.
Well, you've had a chance to watch drivers in these different practice sessions in the last few days. Who's impressed you the most? Anybody?
Well, we've not had a massive amount of testing because the weathers have been a little bit against us, but a couple of the drivers that I really like out there is one of the young drivers, Ferdinand Zandbergen, the young driver from the Netherlands. I mean, we've seen him really put up some fantastic performances in that Baba boat. It's a boat built in northern Italy, and he's running for the Team Sharjah crowd in the championship this year, and I've been really impressed with him as a young driver. He's come on very, very strong.
Speaking of a young driver, here's the youngest driver in the field, boat number 9. It's Ben Jelf out of the UK, making just his 3rd start. He had 1 mechanical in the 2 races that he ran in Sharjah. He's up for Rookie of the Year and hopefully be one of the many young sharks that are battling for respectability in this sport starting today.
Yeah, he's driving one of the boats that I built in Cardigan in Wales. It's a Dragon boat, and you know, he's a young driver. He's come from Formula 2. He's done ever so well in the lower classes. He's been world champion a few times in the monohull class. Now he's moved into these catamarans, and he's done a great job. And he knows he's out there to gain experience for the first 3 or 4 races. I was having a chat with him yesterday, and yeah, he's in a good place at the moment. He's running with Duarte Benavente for the Atlantic team, and Duarte's got a wealth of experience, and I'm sure he's helping him on his way.
Ben Jelf, as we mentioned, just his 3rd start. He's a rookie, and for him, he has 4 European titles, along with 16 British speed records. So the family, it's another generation. His uncle raced in Formula 1, and now he's taken up the mantle.
Yeah, not only that, his grandfather used to race years ago. That shows how old I am. I used to compete against him many years ago, and so it is very much a powerboating family. I know that his mother's involved with the world governing body in some shape or form. His father has been a great boat racer over the years, and you know, they've now passed the mantle over. They're giving Ben the best opportunity that he can have to maybe become a future world champion.
We'll have to wait and see. Now you take a look at the other rookie, Brock Cohen, who is from Sydney, Australia. He now makes his home, though, on the other side of the continent. He's living in Perth in Western Australia, 26 years old, and he won the Australian Formula Future Award back in 2012. So he's been racing. He's run Formula 4 and also in Formula 3. He was the Aussie World Champion back in 2016. So he's coming up slowly, but he had problems yesterday. Remember out in practice, he wasn't flying the boat that you made a mention of, that he was flying it too flat, and he hurt the pickle forks and a nose on this boat.
Yeah, I did ask him last night, was that the case actually, Steve? And because I wasn't too sure. And he said that they'd had a couple of weak points on the front of the boat, which they've now strengthened overnight. But apparently he's done really well, as you pointed out, in Australia. He's got a new boat for the rest of the season, I understand. For the next race in China, he's going to be running that particular hull. And then he's got a new boat, which is at Benavente's workshops down in Portugal. And he feels that that boat will be able to perform a lot better. So watch out for him as the season progresses.
For you viewers who are just joining us now, we are on the clock. We're running just one session this morning, 45 minutes, and it will determine the starting lineup. So we're almost 4 minutes into it, and yes, the qualifying times are coming down, Jonathan. Yesterday, only one driver, and that was Jonas Anderson, had set a sub 1 minute mark. He did a 59.5, but now look at it. With calmer water, Thaniel Quimsey shaved off almost 6 seconds of that time. Done a 53.55 with Celio right back there with him, and Celio is about 6 seconds back. That's unbelievable. So Thani must have got some kind of straight clear water. Let's
Steve,
what do you think?
Just an observation here.
Yep.
Thani's got a 53-second lap against Sani Celio with a minute lap. I reckon there's some kind of issue with the timing there for Thani, no question about it. But as we speak, Sani Celio seems to be leading the way. I can't see that Thani's put that time in. Peter Moran, the French driver that's taken over from Philippe Chiap. Philippe Chiap now is on the radio. He's his crew chief. And that could be a real strong package this year. I think they're gonna show well. Marit Stromoy struggling for the last 3 or 4 races with all sorts of issues with the boat and with the engine. Didn't know what it was, but looking good out there this morning. Steve seems to be putting up a pretty good time.
Yeah, Sami Selio on the screen right now, starting race number 168 of his career. He's got 13 overall victories. He's one short of hitting 50 podiums in his illustrious career. So we remember Sami Selio. This is his 23rd year of racing. Amazing how he's been pushing. But you know what? He's 0 for 25, Jonathan. He has not won a race since Harbin back in 2016. That's unbelievable. He had the pole at the first race last year in France and broke down, and Torrente took the victory. Thank you very much. And but Sami's still trying to find himself again. It's really a dogma. It's very interesting to see how he plays this today.
Yeah, Sami running a boat that's built in northern Italy by Massimo Rogero, and he's been running that company's boats for many, many years. I think he's just been unfortunate, Steve. I mean, last year he was putting up pretty much the fastest times at most of the Grand Prix in qualifying. He looked ever so strong out there, but some technical problems with, I think, maybe, I don't know whether it be the boat or the engine or whatever, but it's really sort of stopped his progress, and that's really sad as we pick up
Great Stromoy.
what's happening there, Steve.
Well, she might be having well, they're working on, I would have said propeller change, but you're in the wrong position. They're working on the head of the engine, you think? What do you think?
No, I reckon I'll tell you what's happened, Steve. They've got a computer system on this engine which actually determines the amount of fuel that the engine runs. Now, it's so important to get the right amount of fuel-air mixture into these engines to get the performance. We're running at altitude here, and it's been a big problem for some of these teams to actually set these engines up to get the maximum performance. And I know that Craig Bailey there, the Australian engineer that she's worked with for a long time, he's probably getting into the engine there, checking the fuel system on there. They've got like a computer that they plug into that engine, and then they can fine-tune it as the session goes on. And I think that's pretty much what's been happening there going forward.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that as we take a look at Peter Bryan, in his 6th season. The 43-year-old out of Rouen, France, is now the lead driver of the CTIC China team, and he's got a lot of talent. I'll tell you what, for him, this is only his 27th start. He's still looking for his first victory. He's got 3 podiums, Jonathan. He's had 9 top 6 qualifying efforts, so he's moved on. So he knows how to qualify well. It's just for him, getting more podiums. He's only got 3 out of 26 starts.
That's right. And last year, by all accounts, he had a pretty good boat. His boats are built in France. But the boat that he's got this year is the one that that his crew chief was running last year. And because of that, I think he might be in better position. He said the boat's a little bit lighter. It seems to have a bit more lift in it. Philippe Chap, I do beg your pardon. Thank you for that, Steve. And I think he went out yesterday and said the boat feels a lot more lively. It seems to be accelerating a lot better. So, watch out for him again this year. I mean, as I said earlier, pretty formidable team there with Chiap and Moran in this year's championship.
Yeah, good point, though, by the way. We did finally adjust the timing. It was squared away, and right now Thaniel Quimsey's down in that 8th spot. Sami Selio is at 1 minute. So nobody has shaved off any time under the minute. That's the magic number right now, as we've got 36 minutes still to run. And you can see Jonas Anderson coming back. He wasn't out very long, Jonathan. Jonas Anderson's 3rd quick, which is great for him, but he's pulling out. So it'll be interesting to see what strategy they play, whether it's cat and mouse where he decides to sit out. He just dropped down to 4th.
The other thing is, of course, the times that they put up now, they've got quite a lot of fuel on board these boats at the moment. So my guess is that as the session goes on, the fuel load's going to get lighter. The boats then are going to get lighter, and they're going to get more performance.
John Torrente, the American, just jumped to that number 1 spot. He is in a sub 1 minute. He's done a 59.52. So your defending world champion has slid himself up to the front. You know, he's had a big grin on his face all weekend. Jonathan, they prepared for this race at Team Abu Dhabi. You know how meticulous they are. They studied the course. They got the correct propellers. They didn't want any changes in this course. But he said it was free and easy yesterday. He was happy with so far the results they're running. And who's going to complain? He's under a minute right now.
Yeah, and you know the young driver Ferdinand Zandbergen, I was talking about him prior to the session starting and mentioned that a young rookie that's really worth looking out for this season. And he's up in that third position at the moment, Steve, doing a great job with Jonas Anderson behind him. Peter Moran in fifth as we speak, and Bartek Marcelak, the Polish driver, he's had 2 podiums, I believe, in the last three races, and putting up a good performance there in sixth.
Yeah, Sean Torrente, as we look at him on the screen, the big thing about Torrente in the last 5 years that he's been racing, in 25 races, he's got 7 poles during that time, 7 wins, 16 podiums. The interesting thing is his winning percentage is almost 30% of his starts. When he finishes, it's 33%. He has been on the podium 84% of the races that he's finished. That's 16 out of 19 finishes. That's remarkable.
I think that's all about, you know, a very, very strong team, isn't it, overall? I mean, you've got Guido Capellini, many-time world champion. You know, he's running that team, the Abu Dhabi team. They're very well funded, no question about it. They've got some incredible mechanics and engineers working with them, people that have been around for such a long time. In fact, some of them, prior to racing boats, Capellini used to race go-karts, and some of these engineers were even with him then when he was a school kid. So can you imagine the wealth of experience they've got? And, you know, there is no substitute for experience when it comes to tuning the engines, building the boats, and just making sure that the driver gets the best possible package when that boat's out on the water.
Absolutely. Experience, togetherness, they can almost read their movements without even seeing them. Now, Marit Stromoy, she was back out there. We saw her a second ago. And this is her 15th season. There she is. And Marit Stromoy, we'll give you a little bit of rundown on her. This is her 92nd start. She won a race back in 2015 in Sharjah. All the world went crazy over that. That was fantastic. She's got 1 pole. She did it in Portugal back in 2011. And she's had 18 top 6 qualifying shoots. So she's a good qualifier. It's funny, we've watched her in the past, Jonathan. She'll be struggling, and then we always kind of hold our breath. Can she get in? Can she move to Q3? Blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, boom, she does it. So right now she's in 10th place.
Yeah, I think we're going to hopefully see a bit of progress there with Marit. We mentioned that Craig Bailey, the Australian engineer that works very closely with her on the tuning of the engines, he's been doing some fettling there. I could see him earlier on doing some stuff to the fuel management system, and maybe they're slowly but surely getting this boat dialed in. So my guess is we're going to see her move up the field in the next couple of laps. She's got some clear water ahead of her, and she could be posting some strong times over the next 3 or 4 minutes. But what we can also see, Steve, is that as these boats go around, the water definitely is getting a lot rougher. And that, for these type of boats, is definitely going to slow them down a little bit. But Marit coming around here now, let's see what sort of time she can post, Steve.
All right, as we watch her go around, I'm just looking down along the pit wall here, and I see that Sami Celio, he's parked. He's sitting back, and he's in 3rd place. Torrente, who came back in, is going back out again, so he's going to probably try different propellers, see if he can get even more speed as we watch Marit Stromoy come around. She's 2.4 seconds behind Sean Torrente, and we'll have to keep an eye on her as a very remarkable, talented person. And she is quite a promoter, by the way. And that was her quick time. She's done a 101, which is the fastest that she has, but she's still sitting 2.43 back. Eric Stark making his way out. Jonathan, we look down at the lineup, as you can see on the left of your screen, a big surprise. Well, I don't know if it's a big surprise, but Alec Vekstrom is not really come out. So this Gilman team is struggling with their power plants. Philippe Rams is down in the 16th spot. He's almost 5 seconds back. So you want to talk a little bit about their woes?
Yeah, they've been struggling. I mean, Scott Gilman wealth of experience, many-time world champion himself. And, you know, that for some reason they just haven't been able to get the engines to run for the last 3 or 4 races, and, you know, that's hurting them a lot. Wexstrom, they were working there late last night. They had the engine running, I think it was 8, 9 o'clock last night on the water on a test wheel, and a test wheel basically is like putting a propeller onto the back of the boat. It puts the same amount of stress on the engine, but the boat isn't actually moving. It's quite an ingenious device. And this morning, they thought, Steve, that they had found the gremlins that have hit them for such a long time, but doesn't look like they have at the moment.
Now, if we look at Alberto Comparato on the screen, he finished 8th in the championship last year. Hard to believe he's in his 4th year. And the youngster is out there starting his 15th race. He's got 1 pole. He did that at San Nazaro 2 years ago and dropped out. He's still waiting to come up in victory circle. It hasn't happened for him yet. He's qualified up in the top 6 almost half the time that he's raced. 6 out of 14 starts he's been in the top 6. So he's a good qualifier. And he's another 2nd generation driver. His father Fabio raced for many years. And as we talk about Southeast Asia, this is the first time we've been back here in this region of the world in 18 years. It's been since 2005, Jonathan, when Francesco Catanda won in Singapore. And it's so exciting about coming back. And you won a race in Southeast Asia, and I know you still talk about it all the time.
That was a long time ago. Yeah. I've enjoyed coming out to this part of the world over the years, and I mean, the passion of the spectators and everything is just second to none. But going back to the race, Steve, and what you tend to find now is that a lot of the front runners, you know, they're well experienced. What they'll do is they'll wait back on the pontoon now. They'll see how the other guys are doing. People like Sean Torrente, they'll sit there now quietly, see if anybody else is improving that performance, and then they'll wait until there's a few of the not so many boats on the water. The water then will settle down, and that means they'll be able to put in a faster lap. So as we speak, Sean Torrente, Team Abu Dhabi, leading the way from his teammate Thani Al-Quamsi, who himself is moving up.
All right, we're losing another driver, and that's the 2nd Gilman boat. That's Philippe Rams, who was 16th quickest, and he's being towed in. That's another bad sign for the Gilman Racing. Bad luck. And that's a shame. But yeah, you're right, Jonathan. You take a look now at the top 3. All 3 have broken the 1-minute barrier. Torrente still is up top, but this time by only 0.35 of a second. And then Thani Al-Quamsi, his teammate, is 2nd. So it's Team Abu Dhabi 1-2. Then Eunice Anderson, who parked it for a bit, came back, changed up a prop, and he's under a sub 1-minute mark with a 59.93. He's about 0.4 of a second back.
Yeah, we pick up Peter Moran there in the I beg your pardon, that's Brent Dillard, the American driver in the 8 boat. Just starting to race in Formula 1, a lot of experience in America, done really well out there, and decided to have a go at Formula 1 this year. He's with a very experienced team, he's in good hands there. And it's going to be interesting to see how Brent gets on as the season progresses.
Yeah, I like the way you say that, Brent Dillard. It's
Dillard.
In America.
Dillard.
You can call him Dillard if you want. That's not a problem.
Okay.
But I mean, he's quite an interesting guy. He's raced on and off. He's won a lot of championships, actually. He's been in the Hall of Champions in the U.S. back in 2004, 2008. He won the Formula 3 championship in 2004, 9, and 10. So Brent Dillard is getting a chance to get out there and show his stuff. He's not doing too bad, as you mentioned. He's hanging in there, and that's what we kind of expected. He's down in 12th. That's where he was yesterday in practice. But again, as you said, he's never raced this boat before. And here's another rookie. Now, it's great to have the victory team back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, they've been the front runners in powerboat racing, both inshore and offshore, for many, many years. And then they pulled out for a year or two, and good to see them back again. And I mean, once they get everything dialed in, these guys, watch out for them, because they're going to be fast, no question about it.
Ahmed Al-Fahim is the driver. He's 43 years old. He's an avid bike racer, which is kind of interesting. And he brought his stationary bike here in the paddock, and he gets on that thing. He'll go out and practice and run hard. And I said, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And he says, I'm going back in and ride that bicycle. I go, okay, sounds good. He used to race cars in part with the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. So he's a Desert Rally Championship driver in the past. So very interesting guy, and he's going to be a great addition for the Tour.
Yeah, looked good out there yesterday, I've got to say. I mean, at one stage he was hanging on to second or third in untimed session. I had a clock on him, and looked pretty good out there. And as I say, watch out for that team. But Sami Seljo now, Steve, just moved up into first position from Sean Torrente. Thani Al-Kwamsi in third. So, as I mentioned earlier, what they're doing now, some of these experienced drivers, they're just waiting to see who's doing what. They're watching the way that some of the other boats are running on the water. They're choosing propellers, because propellers are critical here. What you need is a propeller that has not got the top speed. It's got a lot of acceleration, because we've got so many corners out here. And if you can get that fine balance and pick that right prop, as we call it, that can make all the difference in your overall time.
Tell me if my observation is right or wrong, but I think today's qualifying here, this 45-minute session, instead of running Q1, Q2, and Q3 for 60 minutes, is so much more important than the average race. Why? Because today we've got a pair of 20-minute races, and the fast time here who earns pole position will start there in race 1, and then the results of race 1 will be the starting lineup for race 2. So if Sami Seljo can hang on and win the first race, he'll start race 2 in pole position.
Yeah, and pole position here, because it's a very, very short run into the first corner, there's no doubt about that, is going to be critical. If you can get pole position this morning, you're in pretty good shape for the race. You've got the shortest run from the start pontoon, dead engine start, so when the lights change from red to green, they start the engines and then they're away, and these boats accelerate 0 to 60 mile an hour, I mentioned yesterday, in something like 2 seconds. I mean, incredible speed. They're running around here at the moment, Steve, I think about 135 mile an hour, something like that. I mean, they're capable of doing 170, 180 on a long straight with a big propeller. But here it's all about, as I mentioned, acceleration as we pick up there one of the Victory boats. It's a catamaran design, about 17 foot long, powered by a V6 Mercury engine. Engine produces about 400 horsepower. These boats use about 35, 40 gallons of petrol an hour, something like that. The entire package weighs about, with the driver, about 500 kilos. So they're pretty light, and the boats themselves are made from carbon fiber. The driver sits in a cockpit, as you can see in the front of the boat. There's a little screen. He's sitting in there. He's strapped in with a 5-point harness, and gives him maximum protection. So it's quite a technical bit of kit that they're running out there on the circuit as we speak.
Back to Ben Jelf, as we talked about, a newcomer, one of 4 rookies in this lineup of 20 drivers from 12 different nations. He's struggling a bit, Jonathan. He's down in 18th place, and he's going to try to get himself up a little bit farther. He came in for a bit, so he's made a prop change. Now Jonas Anderson is going back out right in front of us as we see him scattering out toward turn number 1.
Yeah, talking about Ben there, the young driver from the UK, I think what you've got to bear in mind is that he's just dialing himself into Formula One. So we're not going to see too much from him for a short while. The other thing is, of course, that engine-wise, he's probably down about 40, 50 horsepower on some of the faster boats there. And he hasn't got quite the acceleration that, say, some of these latest generation boats have got. So, he's got a strong package, but it's not quite on the money as some of these other boats are.
All right, Cedric Deguine had a chance to see the driver from France. Tell you what, Cedric Deguine is more than a driver, Jonathan. He is also a promoter, and he has done a great job in getting his whole city of Macon back onto the tour for a second straight year. He literally, with his family, put together the race last year that was the opening round of the championship in 2022. And great news as you look at it and you see his wife. He is really a promoter of powerboat racing. His father raced. And the great thing is, with their help, we are going to France this year, which is great.
Yeah, it is. Macon is a great place to race. I mean, I have never raced there myself. I used to race in Chalon, which was just up the road from Macon for many, many years, and absolutely loved going there. And you know, France is a big passion for powerboat racing. I used to race many years ago in the Paris 6-hour race. 95 starters for that event. It ran for about 20 years. Started just underneath the Eiffel Tower. Fantastic event. The other one that's a big event in France, which unfortunately no longer happens. I think the last time they raced there was about 4 or 5 years ago. But for something like 50 years, they had the Rouen 24 hours. So you'd be racing one of these boats, although they'd split it between 3 drivers. But the boats would be out on the water for 24 hours, and they had lights on the front of them so they could see at night. And they used to race on the Rouen, in Rouen itself.
In rough conditions.
Wow, wasn't it just, Steve?
And around the freighters.
Yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable.
Dodging the canal boats and
Yes.
the pleasure craft and everything else at really high speeds, you know, and some race. So a lot of passion in France about boat racing, and great that we're back in Macon.
Imagine sitting with a dinner cruise boat, enjoying your dinner, and all of a sudden a race boat goes zipping by at about
Isn't that
120
cool?
miles an hour. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, Steve, Sami Celio still leading the way. Torrente in second, so there's not much of a change there at the top. 19 minutes 28 of this session to go. So still all to play for, Steve, and the likes of Torrente and that, we're definitely going to see him back on the water shortly, and watch out for the time starting to tumble as the fuel loads decrease in these boats.
Yeah, good point. Now as Jonas Andersen is back out onto the race circuit. He's 4th quickest. There you see him. Not pushing the boat too strongly, getting himself in a position where he wants to get in and onto the race course. You can see his wife Janie there on the headsets talking to the driver from Fruity Sweden. And for Jonas Andersen, he's no spring chicken anymore, my friend. He's joined the tour back in 2006. And Jonas Andersen's first race was in Portugal. And his first pole was in Doha the same year. His first win was also in 2006 in Doha. So he came out of the box pretty strongly. He won the Rookie of the Year award back in 2006. Back then it was Jay Price and Jonas Andersen, both coming from F2 to join the tour.
And here we go, one of the Abu Dhabi boats, Thani Al-Quamsi, 3rd at the moment and going for a fast one, Steve. He comes round past turn number 1, turn number 2, going down into that right-hander. As I said earlier, these boats don't seem to like turning right very well, but let's see how he does that. Sets the boat well there. He's got a bit of traffic just ahead of him. That might slow him down a little bit.
Torrente
and he has backed off, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's Sean Torrente.
Sorry.
It's all right, we switched boats, no problem. As we mentioned, way past the halfway point now, where, as you said, now the time limit starts to get smaller and smaller. Now everybody kind of jacks themselves up a little bit more. More intensity coming here as we get close to the 15-minute mark on this 45-minute session for qualifying to determine who will start on pole position and your starting lineup for the first of 2 Grand Prix today here in Indonesia. We're glad you're with us today.
Zandbergen there, back in shot, Steve. Up
3rd.
back into 3rd. He dropped down to 6th, then he went to 7th. Now he's back to 3rd. Watch out for this young driver, because he's got the bit between the teeth. And if he can qualify in the top 3 or 4, fingers crossed for him, for that young driver. Watch out for him out here this afternoon. He's going to be on fire.
All right, Sean Torrente, the world champion, in anger, pushing hard. There you see his teammate, Daniel Quimsey. And Torrente goes through turn number 1 and 2. There you talk about the course. You can see turn number 3. There's Torrente now heading for the first of 2 right-handers. Sliding that boat around, and there's Daniel Quimsey at a slower pace.
That's a shame, Steve, that we had Torrente on a really fast lap there, and we were trying to concentrate. Unfortunately, the TV have switched on to Thani, so
Barangnya pasti original dan pasti gratis ongkir.
He's on the bottom end of the circuit, going for a fast one, Steve. Is he going to get that pole position back?
Yeah, Torrente has to go wide coming out of turn number 8. Now heading down toward the back straightaway as you look at his teammate, Daniel Quimsey. Quimsey, who is the veteran driver of this group. He's in his 21st season, and he is starting his 148th race, still looking for a world title. And he won last year, and he's got a total of 10 wins on his career in those many starts.
Yeah, still on Thani there, coming into the pits. Obviously, not able to improve on his earlier time. Still sitting in that 4th position, and as we pick up Torrente again.
He's really pushing now as he goes down into that right-hander, heading now into turn 3, making that turn. This is the second strong lap in anger as he goes up into turns number 4 and 5. Then he'll head for the second right-hander, Jonathan.
Yeah, lost out on Torrente yet again, Steve, and as he was on a fast one, and we can see him down the far end of the circuit, picking up Thani Alquemzi, who's cruising at the moment, I'd say, out there. He looks like he's on about a half speed, so we're not going to see anything from him. And back to Torrente.
All right, there's Sonny Alquimsi as he comes racing down. He's going to start his lap in anger as he comes out of the final corner. Meanwhile, as he comes by, we go back to our world champion, Torrente, as he comes pounding his way back. Did he improve on his time? And he did not. He was about 0.2 of a second slower. Sami Celio's got 0.6 of a second ahead of the field. That is a strong statement, Jonathan.
That's good. But, you know, we said this morning, didn't we, Steve, that he's had reliability issues up until now. But when he is out there and everything is working perfectly, he's formidable, no question about it. And it's going to show this morning. I mean, 0.6 of a second is a country mile between first and second.
Yeah, a lot of times we watch the qualifying effort and maybe as many as 10 boats are within 1 second of each other after qualifying. And right now, if you look at the top 10, the difference is almost 2.5 seconds. So this long race course is separating the men from the boys here.
Let's hope we stay on board with Thani now. He's come around. He's had a beautiful run into turn number 2. He's going down now to the right-hander, making good progress there. Let's see how we can take this right-hander. Oh, beautifully done. Good acceleration there, Steve. You can see nothing of the boat touching the water as he goes down to turn number 4 and 5. And let's see how much progress he's going to make and whether he can improve on that 4th position that he's running at the moment.
Had a chance there to see Attilio Donzelli, who was there, and that was radio man Alex Cremona, who is for Sean Torrente. And here we go back to the Team Abu Dhabi driver Thani Alquimzi as he comes by, trying to move up. He's in that 4th spot. Let's see what happens.
He's on the last but one turn. Yeah, good acceleration off that corner, Steve. Is he going to improve? And only 50 odd yards to go to the start finish line. Thani, 4th there. Nope, doesn't seem to do it, Steve.
His 59.87 has been his quick time so far. And last time around it was 1 minute, 0.41 of a second. So Jonas Anderson now back out there in anger as we pick him up. There's your 2022 or 2021 world champion. And Jonas Anderson, as we talked about, in his 17th season. He missed the world championship last year by 3 points. And he failed to finish in his last race, which was the only race all year that he did not finish. And that cost him the championship. He only needed to finish 7th in that race. But thoughts were maybe he leaned the engine out just a little bit too much, Jonathan. And when that happened, detonation, and that was the end of his day before he finished that 38th lap in Sharjah last year.
Yeah, Jonas still out on the circuit, looking for some clear water, Steve. Quite a lot of traffic out there at the moment, and he's just got to pick his moment where he knows he can push out a really fast lap without any interference. As we see Sean Torrente there again, he's turned number 1, number 2. He's going down the far end of the circuit. He is determined to get that pole position. Is he going to do it on this lap? Comes round the right-hander, Steve, into number 4 as we pick up again the French driver
Peter Moran.
Peter Moran, who's making
so Peter's out there. He's in 8th position right now. His teammate Brett Dillard, who's the rookie, down in the 12th spot. So the CTIC China team that ended the year last year with a Cinderella finish for the 3-time world champion Philippe Shep, who came away with an impossible victory. He hadn't won in over 20 events. There you see the driver, 3-time world champion, who's called it quits. And now he is the team manager, and he is on the headset right now and he is talking to his ex-son-in-law, Peter Moran, and they are still very, very close, despite the situation that he's his ex-son-in-law.
Yeah, Philippe Chap on the radio to him there, as is Philippe Desertan and the crew, explaining where he is, where he needs to be, and he needs to be a lot faster than he is at the moment. He's 1.4 off, Steve.
Yeah, and David Moore is the other person you saw on that screen. He is the man who is the radio man for the rookie Brett Dillard. So back we go as we take a look for the first time really in full anger here. It's Bartek Marszałek, the driver out of Poland, who ended his season so tremendously last year with his 50th start, still looking for his first race. And Bartek has jumped up the ladder. He has gone to the number 2 spot. He's forced Torrente down a position. Bartek Marszałek, we hadn't seen much of him, but boy, whatever he did it right, and the conditions are great right now. And that is his wife, Irina, and she is cheering him on. They got a young baby that they had last year, and they are just truly a lovely couple. But she wants all the concentration of her husband, and she likes being there right with him and helping him out in communications.
Steve?
Torrente went to the top. Sean Torrente just jumped to the number 1 spot with a 58.80. So Torrente answered the bell. Remember, he was 0.6 of a second behind Celio, and now he is less than 1/10 of a second ahead. And here comes Celio as he's going to try to answer the call with Zhao just less than 10 minutes remaining in this one qualifying session. Totally different today here in lovely Lake Toba. And now we're going to see the big dog start to hunt.
Yeah, this is when they got to put the hammer down. We can see Celio there, just left the start pontoon, as has Zandbergen, his teammate, and we could see some movers in the next couple of laps, I think, Steve. Celio knows he had that big gap, didn't he, between all the rest of the field. Torrente just sat there quietly and let them get on with it. Found some clear water, knew exactly when he wanted to be out on that circuit, and bang, pole position with Semi in second. Varney now moved up to third, putting a good performance on. Bartek now back down to fourth, but still running really well, the Polish driver.
Yeah, it's hop, skip, and jump right now for the top 5. And Ferdinand Zandberg, as you mentioned, has slipped down to 5th. That's why he just came off the dock, and now he's pushing. And
picked up Sami Celio, Steve. I think he's just biding his time.
Yep.
He's looking for some clear water there. Now his crew chief is telling him exactly where the other boats are on the circuit, that he doesn't want to get too involved with them. And let's just see whether Sami can get that pole position back from Sean Torrente. There's only 1/10 between them as we speak.
no rush, less than 8 minutes to go. Celio, a wily veteran who is a 2-time world champion, won the title back in 2007 when everybody thought that Guido Cappellini was going to win the title. And Sami came out of nowhere on the pole and won the last couple of races and pipped Guido Cappellini out of a world title, and then did the same thing to Jay Price back in 2010. He's in his 23rd year, and here he comes.
He's taking a nice wide line out to the last turn, boy, there. Make sure that he can get maximum speed. Here we go, Sami Celio. Is he going to get that pole position from Sean Torrente? 1/10 of a second between the two of them as we speak. Sami coming through the start-finish line into number 1. Around number 2. Great acceleration in that Baba boat as he goes down to that very difficult right-hander that I spoke about earlier on. He's within 20-30 meters of it. He comes round the right-hander, accelerates into the next 2 turn, boys. Bit of a difficult position down at this end of the circuit. Some of the rollers were coming in there earlier. Great cornering again. Is there traffic ahead of him? Yes, there is, but they've got out of the way, Steve. He's on a blinder.
All right, Sami Celio flying that Baba boat, built in northern Italy, as hard as he can as he comes over on the far western side of the race circuit. Now punches it down through turn number 7 and 8. He's heading toward the final turn in front of the spectators, the tens of thousands that are here this morning. And we expect to see over 100,000 fans this afternoon as he slides out of the final corner, turn number 9. We hold our breath. Can the man from Finland get number 1 back again with less than 6 minutes to go? And Celio goes to the top with a 58.38. He is number 1 right now by 0.4 of a second, as we get a chance to see Zandberg and his teammate, who is down in that 5th spot, And Zandbergen has dropped down another spot as he's pushing hard. He's in that 6th place position, but the Sharjah team would just dearly love a 1-2 finish when this is all over in less than 6 minutes, Jonathan.
And he comes through. Ferdinand move up to 3rd position, Steve. He's 0.7 off at the moment, so we got Team Sharjah, one with Sami Seljo, Sean Torrente, sandwiched between those two drivers, between Sami and Ferdinand Zandbergen in the other Team Sharjah boat in that 3rd position. Great performance from the young driver.
Fantastic as you look at Thaniel Quimsey in that 4th place position with just over 6 minutes to be run as he comes by. Now Torrente is going to get pipped. He's going to see if he can move himself up and see what he can do to try to jump Sami Seljo and get that number 1 spot back. And here he comes. Steve. And he goes down into turn number 1. What a lovely turn. He didn't let off at all. He had a perfect corner into turn 2, heading down into turn number 3 as he flies that boat perfectly down. Almost launched it there as he hits into turn number 3. Not a bad spot, Jonathan.
Perfect cornering there, Steve. Great acceleration from that DAC boat as he hammers. He's about halfway around the circuit now. Good cornering there, pulling about 6.2 Gs as he accelerates out of the last out to turn 4 and 5 and into that yellow. Has he backed off, Steve?
Yeah, it looks like
he has.
Yeah.
He obviously maybe caught a rogue wave or something and didn't like the way the boat was running.
If it's not perfectly clean, why do it?
Yep.
Bartek Marzawak has just jumped to the number 2 spot. Wow, what a run he just did. He kicked Torrente down in that 3rd place position. So Team Abu Dhabi is 3rd and 5th, and now Torrente is going to try it one more time. And here he comes. He's got a clear shot at the front straightaway. Nobody around him, and he'll go back on the clock. Let's see what he can do, Jonathan.
Yeah, he's got a clear road ahead of him as well. Great turning into 1 and 2. Down to the right-hander there, turn number 3. Boat's looking really strong on the water. Let's see how he takes that turn, Steve. Good cornering there, no question about it. So he's down now, going into number 4, and then that short shoot between 4 and number 5. Let's see how he gets around there. Yeah, still looking good, Steve. Okay, now down at number 6, that's the right-hander. See how he can take that one. He's got no traffic ahead of him at the moment. Yeah, that's a lovely turn. And now down to 7 and 8, the 2 short shoots. And then he's got that long straight then between 8, 9
yellow
and the
flag's
start
out.
finish.
Sorry, Jonathan.
Damn.
Yellow flag has
He's
come out.
Okay.
What a shame. Torrente's got to be pulling his hair out because he was on a flyer. And it looks like it's Ben Jelf, the driver from the UK, that has parked himself in harm's way out on the race course. And there he is between turn 2 and 3. He couldn't get out of the way, and the Osprey rescue team will come in there and hustle along with our ski-doos to get him out of there and the jet skis to move him out of harm's way. But the clock is ticking, Jonathan. And
Steve,
this may be curtains for Sean Torrente trying to get that number 1 spot today for this afternoon. The first of 2 races that we'll have for you this afternoon.
Yeah, 2 minutes to go now to the end of the session. Sami Seljo sitting right in that pole position. Bartek Marcelak, the Polish driver, I think you said that he's in the last couple of races he's been on the podium twice. So we know he's capable, there's no question about it. What a blinding time. 8 100ths of a second behind Sami Seljo. Sean Torrente was on a fast lap there, and then they had to put the yellow out, and obviously he had to back off, and oh my goodness, he'd be really disappointed with that.
As you see Ben Jelf being taken back to the start pontoon and the craning area. Something very interesting, Jonathan, is starting to develop that I noticed here. Bartek Marzawak, who's currently in 2nd place as time whittles down here, is next to Sean Torrente. Now, Sean Torrente, after winning the world title in Sharjah, got booted by Bartek Marzawak, who came across 4 lanes and hit him and sent him flying, stalling the boat, stuffing the boat, and almost destroying the boat. And he had a bit of a long talk with Bartek, and hopefully the two have taken care of all their...
taking care of business, Steve.
So it'll be interesting to see if it ends up that way, and see if Sean goes over and chats with a young Polish driver and says, all right, mind your P's and Q's on the start if they end up together.
I saw a video last night of Jonas Anderson in the race in Sharjah, coming off the start line, right? And I tell you what, he left the rest of the field for dead. So although Jonas is in that 4th position as we speak, with still 2 minutes to go to the end of the session, watch out for him in the race, because crikey has he got some acceleration in that boat, and we may see him move up the field. But
green flag back out,
here we
Jonathan.
go.
Green flag, so we do have some time left. Antonio Quimsey is the first one out, and he is struggling right now down in 7th place. He's actually behind the rookie driver who's on that victory team, Ahmed Al-Fahim. And that's not going to make him very happy. And he's going to try to at least jump him and move himself up into the top 5.
Yeah, Sean Torrente coming through again there now, seeing whether he can get a bit of a better time. He hasn't got much traffic ahead of him, Steve, but he's got the wash of some of these slower boats, which is definitely slowing him down. You can see he's gone to the far end of the circuit there now. So can't work out quite. He's obviously going to go for another run. He knows he's only got 1 minute 56 seconds to the end of the session, and we're picking up Torrente there. He's the one guy that can get Celio off the pole position at the moment. Where is he on the track, Steve?
He's over on the far side, turn number 6 and 7. And taking on the outside lane. Now here he comes between turns number 8 and 9. Sean Torrente, 3 world championships in the last 4 years, Team Abu Dhabi, and he is on a mission. He wants to grab the pole position, and if he can do it this afternoon, that would be his 11th pole of his career. And off he goes, Jonathan.
Sorry, Steve. You could see there, just absolute. The boat was airborne. It was like a low-flying aircraft as he comes down past the start-finish line. Nice, clean line through number 1 and 2 and accelerating well into that right-hander.
He is flying the boat high, Jonathan. He's teetering on the edge of disaster to hold his space as Celio goes out. And Celio is trying to hold on to his number 1 spot, but all eyes are glued to this man, Sean Torrente, out of Miami, Florida, as he comes around the corner and heads on up. And as he tries to fight his way past a huge crowd and a lot of traffic here, Jonathan, not ideal for the Florida driver.
Dead right, Steve. A lot of traffic there, and he knows the conditions are not exactly as he wants them to post this fastest lap. But he's coming through again there now, taking a nice wide line. Let's see whether he can. It's going to be a tough one. He's got some clear water.
He'll get one more shot, Jonathan. One more lap. Here he goes as he comes whistling by. Torrente goes to the top. Oh my, with a 57.68. A remarkable run for Sean Torrente despite all the traffic that was in front of him. And Celio slides down into 3rd, now down to the 4th. Bartek Marzawak in that 2nd spot. Eric Stark has jumped from 8th up to 3rd. Tremendous run for the Swedish driver in his first run with the victory team in 4 years, and the checkered flag has come out. Official qualifying is now in the record books. These laps will count as the drivers are still out on the race course before the checkered flag. And here comes Torrente one more time, trying to solidify number 1. Can he do it? The only driver so far with a sub 58-second lap. Torrente flies the boat out of turn number 9, heads down toward the scorers. A checkered flag, and he comes across, and Torrente finishes the job with a 57.68. Did not improve. Jonas Anderson ends up in that 5th spot at the moment. And Peter Moran comes by. He is 6th unofficially. And Brett Dillard comes honking through. And Dillard did the rookie move up. He's in the 11th position. And Bartek Marzawak, his final run. And that'll do it. Wow. What an ending. Sean Torrente, who we thought was caught up and mired in a bunch of traffic, and it's like, it ain't gonna happen. Boy, did it happen in a big way. It's like, whoa, where did that come from?
He certainly pulled one out of the bag there, because the conditions were definitely not perfect for a pole position lap. So he obviously, he wasn't going to back out all the way around. We saw the boat flying like a low-flying aircraft as it was coming down to the start-finish line. But in all that excitement, we had Sammy Celio sitting on the pole, and with 1 minute to go, Steve, all of a sudden, Celio's down a 4th. Bartek
fourth.
Maslak
Wow.
up in that second slot, and Eric Stark, great performance from the victory team in Dubai to get up to third from really quite a way down. So when it mattered, he got that result that he wanted, and you can see Eric there getting out of the boat, big smile on his face. He must be really happy with that performance here this morning.
He was behind the 8 ball the whole time, Jonathan. He was not in the top 5, and all of a sudden at the very end, him hoping for his 38th start. He's got 4 victories on his career, but yeah, he dug down deep and came up into the top 4, and top 3. And I think the interesting thing here is with Jonas Anderson dropping down to 5th, as you talked about him with his jackrabbit start that he had in Sharjah, up in this position, being down in 5th is going to be a little bit more difficult for him to come charging off the beach and finding himself up to challenge Torrente. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, the story really is Torrente digging his way out of traffic. In the same time, he and Bartek Marzawak are side by side once again.
A la Sharjah of last year.
Absolutely.
Could be interesting. I don't think those drivers are going to give each other an inch as they haul off that start pontoon into the first corner. But a great result there right at the end when it mattered. You can see Sean's radio man there, big smile on his face, and fair play. He deserved that, Steve, because it was not that easy to get round there in those conditions.
All right, well, it's an exciting start to this day, a long day coming up, a very unique afternoon, and we are set to start the first of 2 Grand Prix races here that'll be 20 minutes in length. That'll start at 12 o'clock local time at 5 UTC time. So thanks for being with us here for this exciting qualifying session this morning, and we'll kick off the start of the 39th season a little bit later here at the UIM Formula One World Championship in the inaugural Kapiko Grand Prix of Indonesia. So for my broadcast partner, Jonathan Jones, and all our wonderful, talented international broadcast crew, I'm Steve Michael saying thanks for being with us, and come back a little bit later in the afternoon. We're going to start things off at 12 noon. Have a great day. See you later, and so long, everybody.